This is the Hagmann Hagmann report for today. It is Thursday, May 7th, 2015. I'm Doug Hagmann in studio with my son, fellow investigator, fellow researcher Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann report. Folks, you're about to hear just an incredible 3-hour program. I believe incredible. Just putting all the facts in one place. It is later than you think. Folks, our job is to bring you the news that shapes the headlines, the news that is convoluted and hidden amid this funhouse of entertainment that we call the news, right? The corporate media. We'll do the headline and news triage so you don't have to, and that's in fact what we're doing. Our home base on the internet is HagmannandHagmann.com. Please bookmark that website. That's HagmannandHagmann.com, and we're also simulcast our shows every weeknight from 8 to 11 by the Christians United Broadcasting Network. There. Tune us in at the HagmannandHagmannReport.com. Different, of course, than HagmannandHagmann.com. Now, tonight we'll be piercing that fog of disinformation that we're seeing just spread like this inky blackness all over our country. We're going to be piercing the veil of misinformation and misdirection and helping you see what's important, but are not meant to see. Would like to say that our prayers are with, and our thoughts, of course, are with Paul McGuire, who's having the prayer meeting tonight. In fact, it's already started. Well, no, time difference. Thank you. Starting at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. And I just hope that that's going to really be a really great. I know it's going to be a great event. I just hope so many people, are able to attend. Joe, you were saying something about.
I talked with John Robertson before the show, who does HH Connections, and we were informed that two couples from Salt Lake City were driving all the way down to Los Angeles to be a part of that prayer meeting, and they were listeners to the show.
All right. Well, Salt Lake City to Los Angeles. That's
a day's drive.
Yeah, indeed. That's quite and it just makes me wonder about the people in Los Angeles. And I know people have got commitments and other things, but it's later than most people realize. I've been realizing this or becoming. I've been seeing this, and I think of late, and I think that the evidence. Looking at this from an investigative point of view, I think the totality of evidence is showing that the time is much later than we believe. Now, I said last night, and I mean this, we don't set dates, and we can't set dates. I don't know if everything's going to start happening. I don't know if things are going to really go south this fall economically. I don't know if summer is going to be the summer of rage. It doesn't matter. We already had a spring of virtual rage. We saw the same players in Baltimore. And folks, this is so important for you to understand. The same players in Baltimore were some of the same players in Ferguson. And this whole race baiting situation is being seeded by the globalists. It really is. Before we get started on the program tonight, I just want to mention, Mother's Day. Regardless of what happens, it doesn't matter. We have moms, don't we? Or we have wives that have raised our children, and they've done such a great job. If you've got a mom, how lucky you are. Whether she's, 49 or 99, just how lucky you are, folks. Mother's Day, this Sunday. Pro Flowers, fantastic company, great product. They've got some of the most gorgeous flowers I've ever seen. And I like flowers. I gotta tell you, I really like flowers. I like fresh flowers in the house, in my home, and my wife does too. We're just that way, but. I'll tell you this: make your mom's day, or make your wife's day, or make whoever's special to you, make their day. Give them 100 flowery blooms from Pro Flowers. Now, I said flowery blooms because I got an email, and I want to thank you, whoever sent this, saying, boy, it sounds like you're saying balloons. Balloons, like, things that you blow up. No. 100 flowers. 100 blooms from ProFlowers. The only way to get 100 flowery, beautiful flowers, blooms, with a free glass vase for just $19.99 is call 800-PRO-FLOWERS or go to proflowers.com. In either case, you have to use our special super secret code word Hagmann, Hagmann. So when whoever answers at ProFlowers, you just yell out Hagmann. No, don't do that. Just mention Hagmann. And the same with the website proflowers.com. Click on the blue microphone box, type in the word Hagmann, as in Hagmann and Hagmann Report, for your special needs, your flower needs. I've got to tell you, you won't be sorry. More on that later. Joe, it's what a crazy couple of days. Ladies and gentlemen,
can't complain about the weather.
No, it's actually just a beautiful, gorgeous day up here in the Northeast.
We usually have in our summers up here. We live right on the lake. We usually have very humid days, whether it's 60 degrees or whether it's 85 degrees, and that humidity usually, for me, it kills me. But we still have ice on the lake. Humidity is very low, so these 80-degree plus days we have now, it's perfect.
And that was the weather. Sports up next. No, I'm kidding. You know what? We've got a very, very heavy news day, and a lot of things. I do want to just make mention of this. We are currently right now, as we speak. Well, not as we speak, but we're moving our studio to the new studio, and I just want to say once again, thank you all listeners and the people who have supported us and do support us. I want to say thank you so much. I'm sure I've missed thank yous. I know I have. I know I'm late on saying thank you, but collectively, thank you. We're working our tails off to get things just right. So Monday we have things up and running. Right now we're in between, and hopefully, we're having some special equipment put in, and I'm not sure exactly when that equipment is going to be operational, but hopefully what will happen is we're going to be able to hook up guests independent of whatever platform we use, whether it's BTR or regardless. But that way, too, we can control the volume on guests and such. And so for those reasons, we were guestless tonight and last night. And now the technician will be taking a break tomorrow, so we'll be able to have Nathan Leal on with us tomorrow night to talk about Jade Helm. And then, of course, Monday from our new studio location. And again, I want to say thank you very much. Now, we're doing this all ourselves, so it to save money, and to make sure that it's just one of those things. I mean, you just do what you got to do. And man, it's just been a really crazy couple of days. But I want to say thank you so much to everyone.
We're making progress.
Yeah, and the other thing too is. Because of the lateness of the hour, if you don't feel how late it is, I don't know what to tell you. If you feel that this is all just hype and fear and doom porn, that kind of stuff, I don't really know what to tell you except God bless you and keep on believing that and I just hope everything works out for you. But if you're like us, if you see things taking place, the convergence of events, and that we're going to be talking about tonight, to show you exactly how late it is, then I just want to say that you're in the right spot. So anyway, I'd like to start off with a couple of emails because I think I just want to say thank you to a couple of people. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Nancy A. From New Mexico. You know who you are. Nancy, thank you for the wonderful email, and thank you for being happy as we are with the new studio location. Monday, I think what we'll do is take some photographs when it's presentable and publish them for you to see what we're operating from. It's nothing special, but what it is, it doesn't have to be anything special in terms of But what it is it's effective. And that's what it is. But thank you, Nancy A. But she was sharing in an email that she believes that she lives in the heart of portals in the Sacramento Mountains. And the subject line is "The Path of Immortals Show." Of course, in the Sacramento Mountains, is shared with the Apache Indian tribe, and perhaps this might reflect what you're thinking. She writes that when I finally had my awakening, I felt surrounded by inexplicable evil, suffered from panic attacks, and turned back to God from being a terrible backsliding Christian. Well, boy, Nancy, join the club. And then she writes, no more panic attacks. And then she writes that God led me to your show, Steve Quayle, Tom Horn, Paul McGuire, and she's still reading their books and talking about the area in which she lives. Nancy, all I have to say is this. I do believe, from talking with Tom Horn and two other people, well, one is Tim Alberino, the third I cannot mention, your area, the Sacramento Valley, or the Sacramento Mountains, I'm sorry, especially where the Indian tribes are, I've been told is an extremely important area for historically as well as for the future. And the portal activity and such, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And just want to say that. So Nancy, thank you. Nancy A. from New Mexico, thank you for that email. Also, let me just, I had these up here. Hang on just a second. Okay. Sherry D. And I do want to get acknowledge these people, the listeners on air, because to me it's very important. Sherry D., thank you for writing. She writes that I just want to say your show with Tom, Steve, and Chris was so amazing. I listened to it 2 times over. Unbelievable. Thank you all so much. It's interesting because I was working in the studio at 6:30 this morning, and I was listening to the show again. It's difficult for me to, and I don't know, Joe, about you, but it's difficult for me to listen to past shows.
It's difficult for me to listen when guests are on, to all the words, to everything.
Well, right, because we're busy
trying to ask
stuff.
questions, and I get a lot more when I listen to it, and I know you do too, because we've done this when we've been on the road, listen to a show with a guest after the fact. Oh,
yeah, and when I listened to it, I had to stop a couple of times. I mean, I was moving some furniture around, and I had to go back and zip back, replay it back, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, I didn't hear that. And as evidenced by that caller last night who was talking about Hillary Clinton and her birth, I would submit, because I listened to that again today, this morning, when Tom Horn was talking about Hillary Clinton and when she was born. And folks, you'll have to go to that toward the end of the show. But I know that he was referencing an American citizen, but it's interesting that I just want to point this out, because I also thought of this at the very same time. Look at Angela Merkel. Folks, if you go to HagmannandHagmann.com, early this morning, I put up an article, and I know so many people say, oh, wow, finally, right? Well, I put up an article. It's more of I took an excerpt from an article written by Martin Armstrong. It's called The New Age of Economic Totalitarianism and the London Meeting to End Currency. Folks, this is an extremely important article, perhaps one of the most important I've read on this subject. Now, having said that, take a look at the image, the photograph of Angela Merkel in that article. The link is at HagmannandHagmann.com. Click on the link and take a look at that photograph. And you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, you tell me who she looks like. Okay? And from that, you tell me if we couldn't be seeing something very strange happening here. Now, Joe, I don't know if you have the chat open or
yeah.
Does anyone in the chat want to? If there is anyone there in the chat that has access to that particular article from Martin Armstrong, if you scroll down through the link at hagmanhagmann.com through the story, scroll down and take a look at the picture of Angela Merkel. And I'd like to know what the feedback is from the listeners, if they have the capability, if they have the immediate capability to look at the photograph of Angela Merkel. Who does she look like? We'll come back to that in a moment. But the issue here is the criminalization of cash. The end of cash, using cash, is closer than you might think. Martin Armstrong does lay this out quite well. And when I read this, and based on my experiences of late, I truly believe that there will be an economic crisis in the very near term that's going to force everyone into digital cash, and outlawing the paper currency, and even it may happen incrementally. For example, let's say an event happens on a Monday where everything crashes. Or maybe it begins to crash and it takes a week or two for it to finally crash. That does not mean that cash will be outlawed that week or the following week. It might take a little while. And how much a little while is, I don't know. But ultimately, the ultimate goal is, and remember this, the ultimate goal is control. And centralization and then control. Because the fewer choke points that you have to worry about, the more control you have. So think of it like a pyramid, or like any business, we'll say. If you've got 100 managers underneath you, you've got to control 100 managers. Well, that's difficult. It's easier to control 10 than it is 100. And this is the intent, or this is the template of the people in power. So having said that, I just wanted to, I don't know, did anyone see the picture of anyone say anything about the picture of Angela Merkel, who she looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've talked about this on our program before. And I do believe that the Hitler's doctor, I really believe this. And looking at this, I know this sounds like a fantasy and like a really fringe conspiratorial stuff. And if you said this to me 10 years ago, I would have laughed my butt off at whoever said this to me. But the more I study this and the more I look into this, the more plausible this seems. I do believe that, and go ahead and laugh, folks, but I do believe that Angela Merkel is, in fact, the illegitimate offspring of Adolf Hitler through the artificial insemination of Hitler's sister-in-law. That's just me. Now, Heidi, thank you so much. In her subject line, chest pain, I thought, oh no. Anyway, she writes this: I've been a listener for about a year now. I was aware of many things you discussed, but your show is the first place I could find that put the information in one place. I'm awake. And that's what we try to do. We try to grab everything and put it all in one place, so you don't have to go out and look at 50 different or listen to 50 different shows. That's not to discourage you from doing so. I certainly would encourage you to listen to all the shows you can, whether it be InfoWars or whatever, but they do a fantastic job. Alex does a great job in his show. Sheila Zelinsky does a great job. I'm trying to think who else. Well, the Hawk, fantastic, absolutely. So anyway, but she writes, she says, I have to tell you, I've been so grieved this week by the deception in the body here in Reno. That's where she's from. That my blood pressure shot up to 149 over 112. She writes, I'm only 42 with no previous hypertension. Also, I began to have chest pain and left arm pain. I thought, is this because I'm getting so concerned that my body can't handle it? I've been praying, though. I just can't seem to shake the physical reaction to what is happening. This from Heidi. First of all, Heidi, let me just say this. If you do have chest and left arm pain, seriously, I mean, if it's a continuous thing or if it's severe enough, I certainly would seek medical attention because you don't want to be messing around with that stuff, even without a previous history. But now, in a larger sense, I've been hearing from a lot of people who have been internalizing things, the news, but they've also been reacting to the darkness, the negativity out there. I just, there's something about this. One and folks, a woman you'd all know and love, of course, is author Maria Canisse. Prepare for Persecution. She gets that way too. I mean, I'm not breaking any confidences here, but there are times when she becomes physically overwhelmed by the news. But I could name probably another half a dozen more people that I know within my inner circle that have to walk away from what they're seeing. Have to stop. And whether you just read the Bible or you talk with others or go for a walk, take the dog for a walk, smell some flowers, whatever you got to do to detach. But I remember when I was when I was working in the emergency medical field, you'd respond to a call where you'd see a fatality or multiple fatalities or whatever the horrible images would be. I learned to compartmentalize. I put it in a compartment and turn it off. I mean, there's sometimes you just can't. It's just no way. I mean, it's just so bad, especially young children. But you get to the point where because you don't want to be callous to anything. However, you have to handle it in a certain fashion because it's the next person is depending on you too. So I get this and I understand this, but I've been Heidi, you're not alone. I guess is what I'm trying to say. You're not alone in this, and first and foremost, make sure that you take care of yourself. But second of all, walk away, especially if it is making you feel horrible, physically horrible. But also pray and understand that we are already fighting from a position of victory. So we know that regardless of what happens, we are the victors here. And I just want to say that to you. And we can't afford to lose anyone, really. I think if we lost 2 or 3 listeners, I think our numbers would be cut in half, probably. I don't know. I'm just being smart, but yeah, take care of yourself, and that goes for everyone. Please watch. Just watch. Please take care of yourself. Next from Aaron W. Thank you, Aaron, about Jade Helm 15. He writes, hello. I forwarded 3 docs that come from this gov that prove what Jade stands for and what it's about, actually, to Steve Quayle and asked him to send them along to you. Also, I've contacted someone else to confirm what he believes to be the 15th iteration of JH. And he writes, your ignorance was on full display yesterday, and thus I have gone about correcting you, but you may be incorrigible. Well, thank you so much, Aaron W., for correcting me. Hopefully I'm not incorrigible. Sometimes, yeah, I miss things. Try not to, but I appreciate the email. And Jade, certainly, I think we went over that yesterday. I think by the end of last night I stood corrected, right? Did I not? Or was that my imagination? Anyway, I'm not incorrigible, and thank you so much for correcting me. And if you think I'm incorrigible, well, I don't know. You can always, I don't know what to tell you. Randy T., thank you so much. Garland, Texas events, plural. this is something that escaped my radar, and I just want to thank you so much for your email. There was a let's see. I'll just say thank you on this. I'm not going to get into this right now. So I made a mark to put that aside here for a moment. Then, of course, James M., thank you so much. He writes, please consider doing much more per Path of Immortals broadcast on 515. He writes, I feel that this broadcast was the hallmark of all of your previous episodes or broadcasts. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you, James. Yeah, I thought that particular broadcast was absolutely incredible. I really did. Joe, we're getting reports right now with our show that Christians United and Justin TV are out of business. And I don't know if that's a figurative term or if that's real. So you might want to just look into that.
Let me see here. Christians United is up on Skype. Maybe there's something up on the site.
Okay. Well,
I'll find out.
Okay, yeah. I just want to say to Doug, who sent that email, we're looking into that. And this from Linda B. Thank you so much, Linda. She writes flowers is in the subject line. And she writes, thank you so much. My 92-year-old mother just received her 100 blooms, BLOOMS, from Pro Flowers today. She's 1,100 miles away. And she writes, I know this will be the only flowers that she'll receive this Mother's Day. Collectively, we made her Mother's Day. And you know what? Isn't that what this is all about? It doesn't matter. They could be, I don't know. I just love to see moms get their just reward. It's because of me losing my mom at an early age, but I just love it when mothers are thanked and they can enjoy things like this. And I just hope everyone this weekend. I'll say this: if something does happen this weekend, we will take to the airwaves. It'll take some finesse on our part, but we've left ourselves an overlap, meaning that we will. There's going to be serviceable. We're going to have the sufficient service in 2 locations for 24 hours. Because it's expensive, we had to really limit to 24 hours. So anyway, having said that, if something does take place over the weekend, we will take to the airwaves. What prompted me to the reason I mentioned that is because Sunday's Mother's Day, and hopefully everyone will enjoy or have the chance to spend some time with that very special person in your life. And the gift of time is so important as well. Whether it's your wife or your mom or your sister, your aunt, whoever's important to you, spend some time. Get away from the news. To the extent that it's wise to do so. All right. Now, I just want to touch on those emails, and I went through a lot more early this morning. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has written in, and we're going to try to get to as many of them as possible, responding to as many of them as possible next week once we get settled in, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Whether you're a new listener or a regular listener, thank you. And yes, there have been numerous requests for bumper stickers for our logo. I've sent some out. Others, I have a pile of papers right here. And what I do is, if you send me an email with your name and address, I get them out to you, and then I shred the actual hard copy and delete it from our system, so no names and addresses are collected, just so you know. So if you've sent in a request and haven't gotten it yet, hang in there. They're in transit, or either they're in transit by postal mail to you, or your requests are in transit between locations. Now, the second thing, or the last thing before we go full bore into what's really important is talking about tomorrow night, Jade Helm. I want to just call your attention again to what we said last night about U.S. Congressman Louis Gohmert saying that Americans have reason to be concerned. And, I mentioned this last night, and I know that we have some listeners tonight that were not here last night, and I just want to drive this point home. When you've got a sitting congressman, for whatever reason, saying that you should be concerned, I have a tendency to listen. I do know that Gohmert had looked at the Pentagon map as per the news story, and of course he was talking about the designation of the various states being hostile, neutral, favorable, whatever. But I contend, and we're going to be getting more into this tomorrow, I contend that Jade Helm is it's a multifaceted operation. What you see is the eye candy, and even to some extent the distraction. What you're not seeing is what Nathan and Joe will be talking about tomorrow night, and I think this is so critical. There's talk about extraction drills, or extracting people, meaning dissidents. But there has been a program of insertion of federal authorities, federal officials, if you will, whether it be from DHS or other law enforcement agencies, into patriot organizations, or into areas where there is constitutionalist activity. It's almost like we're behind enemy lines, and we're being infiltrated by the rogue elements of the government who want to take us out. Stop this rush toward, or this push toward this free speech and the Second Amendment and the First Amendment, and the preservation of our rights. That's what's going on, and that's what has been going on. It is not just a military operation, but it's a psychological operation. It is a human intelligence operation, and it involves all of the states, not just those mentioned. I just want you to know that. So tomorrow night we're going to be talking a lot about that. And I do apologize if I did make a mistake with respect to Jade Helm, with the acronym JADE, and as many people pointed out yesterday, and I thought I corrected that. I apologize for that. Yeah, I said, show me the document. Show me the document. Well, thank you for doing so. So I take it back. But no, thank you for correcting me. So I'd like to think to that previous email, I'm not incorrigible. But with respect to the now to the news, I hope everyone does read the article by Martin Armstrong. Please do so. His website is armstrongeconomics.com, or you can go to hagmanhagmann.com and the first article there, the link directly to it. He's the guy that created the economic confidence model. And if you look at, just because I've had a couple of people ask me this question, 2015.75, people say, well, what's that mean? Third quarter of 2015. Okay, so, and in some cases it'll be 2017.9, for example. What does that mean? Well, that's, that's a good question. I was going to say that is the ninth month, or toward the end of the year of 2017. I'm not sure. I'd have to get into that. But nonetheless, you can see from the charts, you can see from or you can read from the information where he believes that there will be really no incentive, and in fact penalties for people to keep cash in the bank. And read what he writes, because he's looking at May, this month, May, for things to start really shaking out. This is a brilliant man. In fact, I asked Steve Quayle about him this morning, and I asked him a few things. I asked Steve a few things about Mr. Armstrong and some other issues. But Steve said, "Man, this guy's brilliant." But the information in here about economic totalitarianism, that is confronting us is just astounding. And you don't have to know economics. It amazes me and troubles me how many people that we do talk with, economists that we do talk with, and they throw around acronyms and they throw around things, stats, and you got no clue what they're talking about sometimes. And aside from making me feel ignorant and incorrigible, I like people to speak plain English to me. I mean, we know how bad things are, but tell me, for example, why certain things are taking place. So, in plain English, and that's what this article does, in my view. So, Joe, save me, man, save me. Come on, let's jump in here and let's talk.
All right.
About what.
Well, we can start with the new cover of The Economist has for us, or we can start in Chicago, where Mag Mile Hotel warns guests about flying spiders. And I just for you, I figured we could check out the spider article. I thought, flying spiders.
Hey, let me just, because this is kind of a laid-back day, I got to tell you this, okay? My wife, she was helping me take some things to the studio. This is 2 or 3 nights ago, and it was like, it was extremely late at night, and she brought some things in, and I set some things down on the long desk, and anyway, I turned around and I looked on the floor because there's this industrial tan carpet, and I looked and I thought, what is that? I thought there was like a raisin or something on the floor, and it was one of those big, ugly spiders. Okay, so as any guy does. Now, I can go into a crime scene and look at some pretty nasty stuff. It doesn't bother me. Rats don't bother me. Mice don't bother me. But when I look at a spider, for whatever reason, that's my weakness. Okay, I don't like spiders. I can deal with rats. I can deal with mice. I can deal with even some snakes. I can deal with dead bodies, blood and guts. But spiders. So, like a big guy, I called my wife. Said, hey, can you do me a favor? Would you mind killing that tarantula over there? And of course, it wasn't. I'm exaggerating, but so yeah, I'm admitting it.
Well, this is kind of an interesting story. Flying spiders. It says if you wanted to stay at this Chicago downtown hotel, flying spiders would surprise you about seeing this flyer that the hotel passes around. Note to guests at the Hilton Chicago Magnificent Mile Suites shared on Reddit requested you not open your windows in your suite during the time to avoid the annual migration of high-rise flying spiders, a Chicago phenomenon. Flying spiders, a type of orb weaver spider commonly known as bridge or gray cross spiders, technically don't fly. Baby spiders spin balloon-like webs and are caught by the wind and travel great distances. When full-grown, they're about the size of a $50 coin.
Really? They're that big?
They say that's little closest to arachnophobes. Chicago, as evidenced by some of the over-the-top comments about the photo of the Hilton's note posted on Imageer, calling for room service to order fire. Calling room service to order fire to ordering a strategic nuclear attack on Chicago. The spiders are apparently attracted to high rises because of the lights inside. But I thought that was interesting. I never heard of such a thing. I wanted to just brush on that. But The Economist magazine, to cover the
Economist. Let's get into that.
Have you seen this yet, Ed?
I've had people explain it to me.
Okay. Cleaver computers, the dawn of artificial intelligence.
Yep.
Powerful computers will reshape humanity's future. How to ensure the promise outweighs the perils. The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Stephen Hawking warns. Elon Musk fears that the development of artificial intelligence, or AI, may be the biggest existential threat humanity faces. Bill Gates urges people to beware of it. Dread that the ambitions people create will become their masters. the abominations people create will become their masters or their
Right.
executioners, hardly new. But voiced by a renowned cosmologist, a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, and the founder of Microsoft, hardly it's set against the vast investment by AI big firms like Google, Microsoft, have such fears that have taken on new weight with supercomputers in every pocket and robots looking down on every battlefield. Just dismissing them as science fiction seems like self-deception. The question is how to worry wisely.
Now, since this is radio, let me describe the cover of The Economist magazine. It's a man, I would assume it's a male head, bald, and in the back, we'll say right at the top of the neck, base of the head, there is a USB port with a tattoo appearing, marking above the USB port of a USB connection. And, of course, artificial intelligence, the promise, and the peril. So that is the cover. It's a bald, a man's bald head with a CGI or graphic Photoshop image of the USB port. USB 2.0, not a 3.0, I don't think. And then, of course, the USB marking above that in a tattoo-like fashion. So that's what you're describing. Yes, I've had people describe it to me, and of course that's right on target.
Goes on to say, you taught me language, and the first step is to understand what computers can do now and what they are likely to be able to do in the future. Thanks to the rise in processing power and the growing abundance of digitally available data, artificial intelligence is enjoying a boom in its capabilities. Deep learning systems by mimicking the layers of neurons in a human brain and crunching vast amounts of data can teach themselves to perform some tasks from pattern recognition to translation almost as well as humans can. As a result, things that once called for a mind, from interpreting pictures to playing the video game Frogger, are now within the scope of computer programs. Deepface algorithm unveiled by Facebook in 2014 can recognize individual human faces and images 97% of the time. Crucially, this capacity is narrow and specific. Today's artificial intelligence procedures the semblance of intelligence, thought, brute number crunching force without any great interest in approximating how minds equip humans with autonomy, interests, and desires. Computers do not yet have anything approaching the wide, fluid ability to infer, judge, and decide what is associated with intelligence in the conventional human sense.
Okay, my take on this, and I think that this is critical to me, and this is based on conversations with Steve, multiple conversations with Steve Coyle, and multiple conversations with, Steve in particular, Paul McGuire as well, off-air conversations, is that it's all about the quest for immortality. It's all about this idea of the elites where they can upload their consciousness to a computer. And if you remember me saying earlier many times that I believe personally the consciousness itself is resident outside of the body. So if you think of DNA being our DNA having a specific harmonic frequency, you're able to access your consciousness, including your memories, through the and I'm simplifying this as much as I can, and I'm not even sure I totally understand this, but think of your DNA as like this vibrating antenna that connects to a sector on a hard drive that has not just your consciousness there on this hard drive, but everyone's consciousness. And this is not New Age now. I'm not talking New Age at all. I'm talking about, I think, and so does Steve Coyle and Paul McGuire, it's biblical, and it probably could be biblically supported. Now, I don't have the verses or the historical context from a biblical perspective, but I will say that there's certainly nothing anti-biblical about it, and certainly nothing New Age about it. But so if we all have DNA vibrating antennae that can access our consciousness outside of our body. Isn't this a strive for immortality, being able to retrieve that consciousness? And I think if I were to perhaps explain this in a courtroom setting, I would point to or use as exhibits the way the pharaoh kings were buried, were prepared for burial in ancient Babylon and Egypt, where their bodies were meant to be, and in fact were preserved very, very good, very well. Now, were they perhaps expecting in their lifetime? Did they perhaps know that? Did they have the scientific knowledge during their lifetime passed down, perhaps from the pre-Adamic race, if you believe in that, or the Atlantis, race, or the denizens of Atlantis, if you believe in that? Could it very well be that they were expecting to be able to do what the very elite are planning for today? But I believe this is what this is all about. And also by this quest for immortality, there is that becoming a god in and of yourself. And I think that it's all a blasphemous, and it's certainly all antichristical or antichrist in nature. So I think that this is important for us to understand. But the one study that is related to what you're talking about is where it does involve DNA and the harmonics of our bodies being slightly different than we're all slightly different. The harmonics or DNA is different, and almost like, for example, when you have either twins by birth, identical twins, or you've got a husband and wife, and you hear about this all the time, a husband and wife who have been married for 50, 60 years or living together for that period of time. Their DNA, this is not scientific, okay, but I'm just trying to explain this to you. The vibrations of their DNA become closer to each other than others. Kind of like the syncing up of women's menstrual cycles when they live together for a long period of time. You've heard that. Some people say, oh, that's a wives' tale. But I do believe that there's been some scientific support for that. So this is the same. Think of it in the same fashion, where you've got this DNA that's resonating, and two people, husband and wife, the DNA, the resonation of the DNA becomes closer together, and that's why sometimes you can, there's a familiarity where you can finish the person's sentence, or you know what they're thinking, or that special relationship you have with your wife or your husband. That's what that serves as the basis, Joe, for this, and I think that there's this advanced knowledge about this. And Josh Peck, his understanding of the quantum physics and the multidimensionality of things, Paul McGuire, his discussion about multidimensionality, Steve Quayle, Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, they all talk about this. And I thought, going back to 5/5/2015, going back to Tuesday's episode, I thought that was fantastic when Tom Horn was talking and Chris Putnam were both talking about the galaxy, about the composition of the galaxy, our galaxy, in all spiral-type galaxies, flying through the space and kind of the what that means. So, boy, I'll tell you what, folks, go back and listen to May 5th, 2015, even a third or fourth time, because you'll pick up so much more. But, that serves as a basis for what you're referring to, and I think that this is...
And here's where the article gets interesting. It says, yet AI is already powerful enough to make a dramatic influence or a dramatic difference into human life. It can already enhance human endeavor by contemplating what people can do. Think of chess, which computers now play better than any person. The best players in the world are not machines, however, but what Gary Kasparov, a grandmaster, calls centaurs, amalgamated teams of humans and algorithms. Such collectives will become the norm in all sorts of pursuits. Supported by AI, doctors will have a vastly augmented ability to spot cancers in medical images. Speech recognition algorithms running on smartphones will bring the internet to many millions of illiterate people in developing countries. Digital assistants will suggest promising hypotheses for academic research. Image classification algorithms will allow wearable computers to layer useful information into people's views of their real world. Even in the short run, not all the consequences will be positive. Consider, for instance, the power that AI brings to the apparatus of state security, in both aristocrats and democrats. The capacity to monitor billions of conversations and to pick out every citizen from a crowd by his voice or her face poses a grave threat to liberty. Even when there are broad gains for society, many individuals will lose out from artificial intelligence. The original computers were drudges, often women, who performed endless calculations for the higher-ups. Just as transistors took their place, so AI will probably turf out the whole regimens of white-collar workers. Education and training will help, and the wealth produced with the aid of artificial intelligence will be spent on new pursuits that generate new jobs, but workers are doomed to dislocations. Surveillance and dislocations are not, though, what worries mayors Hawking, Musk, and Gates, or what inspires a phalanx of futuristic AI firms that Hollywood has recently unleashed into cinema screens. What's that word? Flanks, okay. The concern is altogether more distant and more apocalyptic. The threat of autonomous machines with superhuman cognitive capacity and interests that conflict with those of Homo sapiens. Such artificially intelligent beings are still a very long way off. Indeed, it may never be possible to create them, despite a century of poking and prodding at the brain. Psychologists, neurologists, sociologists, and philosophers are still a long way from understanding how the mind might be made or what one is. And the business case for even limited intelligence of the general sort, the sort that has interest and autonomy, is far from clear. A car that drives itself better than its own owner sounds like a Bon, a car with its own ideas about where to go, less so.
But see, it goes back to, okay, that's the technology that we use, but at the root of this is the designer technology, or the designer, the ability to create designer people, the ability and the promise. And this is where they're going to appeal to the masses. Hey, we can alter your genetic makeup so you don't have that, you're not predisposed to the cancer that your lineage, your grandparents had. For example, breast cancer. You know, we know there's a genetic predisposition to breast cancer, as well as other cancers. So if we can alter your genetic makeup, your DNA, so you're not predisposed for that cancer, then people are going to go for that much quicker. And this is what this is all about. And then you get into, by extension, the editing of the fetus, well, the editing of the DNA of the unborn child, and this is also an issue. So, yeah. And this is how this will appeal to the masses. And what can it hurt? That's going to be the response. It can only serve to help us, but that's on the human side. Now you're looking at the beast tech side of things. So, and it sounds good. I mean, from cars that drive themselves to all of this. I mean, we know what you're talking about. It's this myriad of things that will appeal to the masses without. And we are now so. I'm not even sure I like the phrase "dumbed down," but we're now so. We're not as sharp. The masses are not as sharp as they would be, or they should be, I should say. So, yeah.
And it ends with this. I know how to curse. But even the prospect of what Mr. Hawking calls full AI is still distant. It is prudent for societies to plan on how to cope. That is easier than it seems, not least because humans have been creating autonomous entities with superhuman capabilities and unaligned interests for some time. Government bureaucrats, markets, and armies all can do things which unaided, unorganized humans cannot. All need autonomy to function. All can take on lives of their own and can do great harm if not set up in a just manner and governed by laws and regulations. These parallels should comfort the fearful. They also suggest concrete ways for societies to develop artificial intelligence safely. Just as armies need civilian oversights, marketers and regulated bureaucracies must be transparent and accountable, like they ever are. So AI systems must be open to scrutiny because system designers cannot foresee every set of circumstances. There must also be an off switch. The constraints can be put in place without compromising progress. From the nuclear bomb to traffic rules, mankind has used technical ingenuity and legal structures to constrain other powerful innovations. The specter of eventually creating an autonomous non-human intelligence is so extraordinary that it risks overshadowing the debate. Yet there are perils, but they should not obscure the huge benefits from the dawn of artificial intelligence.
All of this AI talk, and I'll be the first to admit this, when Steve and when I first began to talk with Steve, and he was talking about artificial intelligence and the advances that we've made already. This is back in early 2000s. I'll tell you, I told him, I said, Steve, I really think you're crazy. I really think that you're out there on this. And he said, no. I mean, our scientists, the scientific community is light years ahead of where you think they are, and he's been proven accurate. And I've, of course, since apologized to Steve many times over, but and he's right. I mean, he was right back then, and he's even more right now. I mean, talk about being right on target. So
there's another. We're up against the top of the hour.
When we come back, I just want to say this, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. Remember yesterday, Joe, you specifically were talking about the bird flu in Minnesota, or in the heartland of the United States.
Yes.
Okay. Mary C. sent an email that I do want to touch on this, because after the top of the hour, after we talk about what I found early this morning on a couple of Islamic websites about some potential attacks, lone wolf attacks, and where they said they're not exactly specific, but certainly the targets appear to be pretty. Well, you'll know them when you hear them. Okay, so I just want to those two subjects. I'm going to remind you of that before the break. Okay, so you go ahead and take us wherever you want to go.
Well, there's an article, How Our Thoughts Control Our DNA. I want to just kind of touch on a few of the points made in here, but we're going to jump out and take a quick commercial break as we are at the top of the hour. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann Hagmann Report on this Thursday, May 7th, 2015. Next Wednesday, Greg Jackson's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking about the decision the Supreme Court will be making on marriage, whether it's between a man and a woman, or they're going to redefine or strike down traditional marriage. And he's going to be coming on to talk with us about that next Wednesday. I have a video clip that I did not upload.
Sorry, Greg.
But I'll get it uploaded for tomorrow that articulates this. And we talked for a while today. He's going to lay out from the Constitution through historical examples what options we have if the Supreme Court does rule the way which we all think they will.
Yeah.
But that's next Wednesday. We'll be right back after these short messages. Stay with us. ISIS. We were going to start with ISIS. During the break, me and my dad were talking. The whole thing in Garland, Texas, was centered around a art contest for the winner of a Muhammad drawing.
Well, let me correct you on that just for a second, because a free speech event with an art contest, look, I understand. I get this. I understand that people will think it was a provocative move, okay? But the main the corporate media has been really pushing this art contest aspect of it. That indeed was a big part of it. But Geert Wilders came in to speak. Spencer came in to speak. Pamela Blair was there to speak. And don't forget, the venue was very small. There was only a few hundred people there. All right, but the way it was advertised was a free speech event. Now, moreover, I do understand the provocative nature of this, given the propensity of Muslims to attack those who believe their prophet is being attacked. I understand that, and there are people, there are people questioning the motives and even the sensibility of having this event. I understand that too, but I think that's somewhat diversionary from the issue. But go ahead, Joe, and you were talking, or you were going to lead off. The removal of Facebook from this, and he's apparently been removed from many other. The winner of the.
Yeah. So his account's been deleted. It's just something, just a quick blurb that I saw from a post on Twitter he wrote. But there's also another report today, this is from USA Today, from the FBI. FBI director says Islamic State influence is growing in the United States. In a drastic assessment of domestic threat posed by the Islamic State, FBI Director James Comey said Thursday that there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people across the country who are receiving recruit overtures from the terrorist group or directives to attack the United States. Comey said the Islamic State, also known as ISIL or ISIS, is leveraging social media in unprecedented ways through Twitter and other platforms, directing messages to the smartphones of disturbed people who could be pushed to launch assaults on U.S. targets. It's like the devil sitting on their shoulders saying, "Kill, kill, kill," Comey said in a meeting with reporters. The FBI director's comments come in the midst of a federal investigation into a foiled attack in Garland, Texas, involving two ISIL sympathizers, one of whom, Elton Simpson, was long known to federal authorities.
Right. Now, we also have to remember, too, the difference between acronyms. ISIS, the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, and ISIL, which is the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant. Well, the latter, meaning the Levant acronym, is, to me, an intentional, the use of that acronym. Some people unwittingly say that you use that acronym, ISIL, without really understanding the significance between ISIS and ISIL. Well, ISIL, at least in my view, based on my research, is a very backhanded slam against the nation-state of Israel and the Jewish people by not recognizing, or by calling the area the Levant. So, and also, ISIS, what's in the name? ISIS, of course, the Egyptian goddess, the Babylonian goddess, and I believe it has its roots, the acronym, the naming of this group has its roots in the ancient Babylonian and Egyptian goddess worship. So I think we have to use, in this program at least, we should use the acronym ISIS for accuracy as well as for recognition or acknowledgement. Not recognition, but acknowledgement that we know we know the backstory. We know that these globalist Luciferians are attempting to recreate the Babylonian Empire, if you will, the Luciferian controlled Earth, and that, of course, involves the eradication of Israel as well as the United States. So ISIS is more accurate, at least as far as I'm concerned, for what that's worth. But I think it's important for people to know this. But if I may mention this, I've been in contact with a couple of investigators who have been monitoring the Islamic terrorist websites, and I referenced this yesterday, I believe it was, and I mentioned this on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, but let me explain a little bit more. Early this morning, I received an email with some screen captures. Now, we have, under the Northeast Intelligence Network, we have a loose confederation, if you will, of investigators who monitor Arabic language websites, web forums. People have been in these forums. These are password protected forums, and they've been existing in there, overtly conducting surveillance, not baiting anyone, just watching. And that's pretty much the legal definition of surveillance. You don't disrupt. You watch. You listen. You learn things, and that's what these two investigators have been doing. And of course, with the Northeast Intelligence Network, a couple of individuals are fluent in Farsi and Arabic, or can translate the messages. Some, of course, rely on computer programs, but the meat of the matter is this. Based on, and I wrote a bullet list here, and I'll just read it from this bulleted list because this is important for people to understand. And there are two conditions, or two things I'll say after this bulleted list. Number one, according to the postings on multiple Islamic websites, multiple terrorist websites, there are in the neighborhood, there are claims by the posters that there are upwards of 5,000 active, 5,000 terrorists, Islamic or ISIS sympathizers in the United States. 5,000.
Well, let's make a distinction.
Okay.
Between a sympathizer and somebody who might take an action.
Well,
using ISIS as
in this case, these are people who, given the order to do something, will do it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, in other words, will shoot up whatever they're told to do.
What was it ISIS claimed last? I saw this yesterday. I believe there was, or just after the Garland, Texas shooting, they gave a specific number: 71 soldiers. I think 23.
Right.
Said that they were ready to carry out orders that had been given to them. Whether those numbers are accurate or not.
Okay, and that's what I'm talking about. You're saying 71 by the government's own acknowledgement, I believe.
No, this was by the alleged ISIS terrorists on their Twitter feed, that they said that they had 5 states that were
okay, you're right.
ISIS member inside. They had 71 soldiers, 23 who've been given or are willing to carry out similar orders to that of Garland, Texas, or situation.
Well, that makes me wonder where that number and where that came from. Okay, I understand the Twitter feed. I get that, but you've got to have a person behind the Twitter feed. The talk or the dialogue, and our federal government knows this, and they have the ability to trace back where this is coming from, and our investigators have traced it back to some posters within the continental United States. And isn't it interesting that at least 2 of the more prominent, longest members are in Virginia, right now, close to the Langley area. Now, does that mean that they're part of the intelligence apparatus? I don't know. We don't know. But it's rather interesting. It should be pointed out. So the discussion, the active discussion, subsequent to Garland, Texas, 5,000 active ISIS members. Can we prove this? Well, this is what they're writing. How do you prove that? I don't know.
I mean, look at 9/11. We had presidential daily security briefs. One in particular was used by the 9/11 Commission, or one was used to point out the lack of intelligence information sharing and the problems that went into the bureaucracy of fighting terrorism when they gave the president a bullseye of the Twin Towers,
right,
and an al-Qaeda to strike soon in the U.S. was one of the daily intelligence briefings given to Bush that later came out. Before this came out in July, but in September that year, the trade centers were hit. So, I believe, as there's been a ruling, appeals court rules, NSA collection of phone records not authorized by Patriot Act, but we read from the entire artificial intelligence article that they are able to listen live to people, watch them. All the security cameras we have across private and public in this country, the ability to have the eavesdrop and snoop. They even say the authorities knew these 2 individuals beforehand, but in their words, there's so many like him, they say. How could they not catch, I mean, how is this not, in my mind?
Who is not telling the truth here? Are we overstating the abilities of the federal government, as some say? I don't think so. I think the federal government has the capabilities
we can't believe
all of this.
They're that advanced, it's computer savvy and that technologically advanced, where they can start, implementing and merging humans with machines. Yet they can't do the simple things they have and have done for years, which is listening to people and, from their behavior detection methods to whatever it is that they've been able to do under the information gathering section of the Patriot Act to eavesdrop, spy on any suspected terrorists. How would they not know what they're going to do beforehand with all that sophisticated,
It doesn't even have to be sophisticated, because that's the other side of this. In my dialogue with the people monitoring these forums, we've identified collectively now, and they individually have identified CIA or FBI or DHS, whatever, under the umbrella of the Department of Justice assets, who are in these forums. So you've got assets of our intelligence agencies operating in these password-protected forums. And how we know this, of course, is because we've been bumping into them. There's ways to tell, and I won't go any further than that. But so, number one, upwards of 5,000, and not 71 or 70 or 2 dozen or however many they claim. I'm not even sure where that statement originated, aside from what you said, that there has to be there's something more to that. But so let's take it at its face at 5,000. The other part of this, they are operational through the Islamic, through ISNA, through the Islamic Society of North America. They're getting a lot of their operational instructions, and this is according to these posters in these forums. The members of the forums are getting their instructions through the Islamic Society of North America and through other such or other like organizations that are legitimate at their face, at least legitimately recognized. But the third thing is that most of these terrorists, and this would seem antithetical to the entire operation, are sympathizers or associated with or favorable to the Saudi regime. Now, I understand the difference between Sunni and Shia. I get all of that. I'm just putting this out there. This is raw data, okay? The fourth thing is they want to strike at our weakest. They want to make an impression. They want to strike. Now, this is a discussion. It's kind of like going on a discussion board, but it's password protected, and you leave messages, and other people will reply to messages and so on. And these are posters who have been in these message boards using the same name, same avatars, same everything since 2003, 2002, since we first started watching. So these are not newbies in these forums, but they want to strike at women, children, are soft targets in the heartland. Now, you might think that this is old news. We've heard this before, but there is a renewed resurgence here of these threats. Please listen to what I'm saying. And remember, and there's also, and I found this very interesting, number 5, there has been a lot of talk about the DC snipers, Muhammad and Malvo, right, where they want to see more operations on par with the DC snipers. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing here, but you get the idea. And listeners to the Hagmann Hagmann Report are getting this first, and I'm not sure I'm even going to write this out. I don't see any reason for that. Okay, I think this should serve as sufficient warning. The other other thing is they feel that that this will have a two-pronged effect as well. Okay, the baiting, if you will, or the reaction by the patriots, the constitutionalists, the reaction by us will serve a couple of different purposes. Will put us on the radar as the terrorists, even more so than what Napolitano did and what Obama is doing. And the second part of that is to effectively negate the Second Amendment, our Second Amendment rights, and also our First Amendment rights. Because when this starts happening and we start speaking out against these attacks, we will be called Islamophobic, and this you can see it coming. The attacks. Look at the attack in Garland, Texas. We don't know what the motive is. Well, they most certainly know what the motive is. The authorities, okay.
And there's a lot of people out there questioning, Garland. What was it? What was it? What we were told it to be? And in this day and age, where we've talked about not only the artificial intelligence, the capabilities technologically to make up, their own video and news headlines. They've been creating propaganda since there's been a audible, even paper form of communications, like a newspaper.
Right. They've
perfected it with radio and TV. And this is a quote from, I'm remembering from the top of my mind, from a government document, 2025, Unconventional Warfare 2025, that the computer-generated graphics and Hollywood capabilities are so unable to distinguish from real events when seen on TV that they will be able to fake as much news as needed if they want.
Very, very good point. To add to that, and to give this another angle, if you will, the discussion within these groups, they make a lot of reference to the English language version of the Al-Qaeda magazine. Okay, the Inspire, yeah. How glossy the references are to the PR campaign behind it. They're putting a lot of weight into the refinement of their PR campaign. And I think that that's important to mention as well as we're going down this list of things that we found, or I shouldn't even say we found, the investigators who we're associated with working very diligently and coming up with these findings. So think about that, and you're right. I believe that we're seeing this very refined PR campaign, the use of these computer graphics. These are not being done in some third world hellhole. This is being done here in the United States. And that brings me to the next thing, which you intimated. I do believe, as do the investigators, believe that they have help from the assets, the government assets inside these forums. The question is, what's the motive of the government assets? What are they trying to do here? Are they attempting to identify and then ultimately arrest, catch these terrorists? No, and the consensus among the investigators is no, that there is this assistance being granted in order to expedite the events. So if someone is talking about shooting up a mall, malls have been mentioned by name, Mall of America specifically, the greater places in Los Angeles, also on New York City, Miami. Now, I'm talking about areas here. Can we be specific? Do we have anything specific in terms of specific threats? No. And if we did, we would turn it over to the appropriate law enforcement agency as well as tell you. But we don't have anything specific. We have general areas, as I just mentioned. Oh, and Texas being another one, Dallas, Fort Worth area, Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma. But for regardless, or for whatever reason, Texas is drawing a lot of heat or a lot of interest by these alleged terrorists. And I find that interesting, especially with Jade Helm being kind of focused in Texas. Are we seeing this control? Are we watching in real time this 9/11 or a 9/11 scenario develop, or an Oklahoma City develop, or what are we seeing here? 1990, the template from 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Are we seeing the intelligence agencies and operatives providing material assistance to terrorists for less than honorable purposes? And I question this, and ladies and gentlemen, when I remember vividly the conversation I had with one specific investigator. I don't have permission to use his name, but when we were on the phone, he said, I give up, I quit, I've got to stop, because I cannot tell the good guys from the bad. I can't tell the good guys from the bad guys anymore. The line has been blurred. And this is a guy, this is an investigator who called me up one night, said, get to your computer, and I did, and he gave me a link, and I hooked into that link. I pressed that link, and I was able to see, as he was, and all of the terrorists within this password-protected forum saw in real-time video. The terrorists hacked a video system within an airport in the United States. It was in the southern United States. And together we called the head of airport security and said, hey, what's your email address? Well, why? Because we're going to send you a link. And we want you to look at this. And we sent him that link. We were on the phone together. We sent him the link. And I think I don't remember exactly the number of cameras, but we navigated to exactly where he was sitting, and here he is. We could actually see the look of surprise on his face, and we told him that the terrorists, this was on an Arabic language Islamic terrorist website being broadcast all across the world, and there he was in full living color, that the terrorists had hacked into this airport website. Now that was gone within the hour, within like a half hour, I guess it was. However, how does this work when you've got known intelligence operatives who have infiltrated these websites and allow this to take place? Well, I think we know the answer to that, but so please, I guess, so I've just given you a list, a laundry list here of things that we have found, and the other thing is perhaps equal, if not perhaps even most important, is to exacerbate the race relationships. The Islamic terrorists or the operatives operating as so-called undercover agents want to further exacerbate the race relationships here in the United States, or the state of relations in the United States, meaning they want, and I don't know how else to say this, they want black Muslims to go out and kill white police officers. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how else to say that, but that's the not just the intimation, but the suggestive postings on these forums. So there you have it, and that's wherever they are. Okay, that's not geographic specific. That's wherever you are, wherever they are. So I just wanted to pass this along to you. I think it's important, critical, real-time intelligence. Everything I've said has been posted to these message boards over the last, since Sunday. Since that shooting in Garland, Texas. So there you have that, and we can move on. But I thought, based on Joe, your story in USA Today, and I thought I'd just give you that raw intelligence. Do with what you will.
All right, moving along here. Top federal court rules against NSA's phone records program. This was an interesting ruling. I was reading about this off and on in the last hour and during the break. A federal court has decided that the NSA's bulk, warrantless collection of millions of Americans' phone records is illegal. The sweeping decision from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals on Thursday represents a major court victory for opponents of the NSA and comes just as Congress begins a fight over whether to renew the underlying law used to justify the program. That program exceeds the scope of what Congress has authorized, Judge Gerald Lynch wrote on behalf of the three-judge panel. The law cannot be interpreted in a way that defies any meaningful limit, he added. Additionally, the government's rationale behind the program represents a monumental shift in our approach to combating terrorism, which is not grounded in a clear explanation of the law. The Second Circuit's decision provides the most significant legal blow to the NSA operations to date and comes more than a year after a lower court called the program almost Orwellian and likely unconstitutional. The appeals court did not examine the constitutionality of the surveillance program in its ruling on Thursday. The Second Circuit Court is just one of three appeals courts examining challenges to the NSA phone records program, which may ultimately land at the Supreme Court. Section 215 of the Patriot Act authorizes the government to collect any tangible things that the government proves are relevant to an investigation into suspected terrorists. Let me repeat that because I was caught on this for a second. Section 215 of the Patriot Act authorizes the government to collect any tangible thing that the government proves are relevant to an investigation into a suspected terrorist. So if we're talking about a phone call, how can the government prove that a phone call or what was said in that phone call is proven to be relevant to an investigation unless they've listened to it before? Not, obviously. You can't unlisten to something. So they would have to break the law in order to listen to it to prove that it was relevant under this section. But obviously they can't do that. They can't walk it back. They can only listen to it and say it has no meaning. And that.
Okay, now, I think it's important. One more time, go over
Section 215 of the Patriot Act authorizes the government to collect any tangible things that the government proves are relevant to an investigation of suspected terrorists.
But what you're saying, they don't have to prove it. They can they collect it first and then decide whether it's relevant later.
To collect any tangible things that the government proves are relevant to the investigation. So it sounds like they have to prove it's relevant to be able to collect it.
But that's
they're
not
not.
what they're doing it. That's not how they're doing it. They're collecting it and then deciding if it's relevant.
And using what they have to prove that it's relevant to proceed it with further surveillance techniques.
But they keep the information. They don't destroy it.
Exactly. But this whole ruling is moot in reality because is the NSA going to listen to Congress? No.
Well, and that
are they going to listen to the judges? No. And this is what Greg
not.
Jackson's going to get into when he comes on next Wednesday to talk about the coming down decision in the Supreme Court on homosexual marriage.
Yeah, and I believe...
What is the law? What are the judicial activism versus legislative action? What can be done?
See, and I think Greg Jackson's going to my question to him was, it's fine to say that it's not legitimate, but what do you do? How do you respond? Okay, I use the example, and I think I might have even used the example on air, where you've got somebody who is not enrolled in the Obamacare, and this year now they've got to pay fines, right, to the IRS. The IRS is a collection arm of Obamacare. So do you become civilly disobedient by not paying the fine? And if it's just 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 or a small percentage, what happens? Of course, that fine is. So I think we have to be a little bit more cohesive in our. As Coach Dave Dobmeyer has put together the Salt and Light Brigade, I think we can find in this case safety and solace and singleness of purpose through organizations like Path to Salt Ministries, Dave Dobmeyer, Coach Dave Dobmeyer, his Salt and Light Brigade, and folks, let me just say, join the brigade at saltandlightbrigade.org. That's saltandlightbrigade.org. But so I think we need to work together on that. But that's something that you're right, Greg's going to have to get into, and I think we need some direction on how to proceed, because if the Supreme Court, or when they come out and say, we are going to rule in favor of homosexual marriages, and I know that's the wording there, the semantics is not necessarily correct, but you get what I'm saying. So how do we respond as Christians? How do we respond?
And it's something that we need to pray about, we need to read our Bibles about, and we need to, in fellowship with each other, bounce ideas off of each other based on what we get from the Holy Spirit when we're reading our Bibles, when we're praying.
Right.
There is a lot we can do. And does anybody really think that the Supreme Court decision is not going to rule in favor of a homosexual marriage and against the sanctity of ordained marriage?
No. But the other thing that Greg mentions as well is that there's no law or no rule, I shouldn't say law, but no ruling by the Supreme Court that negates anything in the Constitution. So let's say the Supreme Court makes a ruling that's not consistent with what's in the Constitution. It is no law at all. And that's, again, Greg will get into that as well. And there's a way to fight that. And I think Greg's got a very good method of responding to that. I'll let him articulate that rather than me get into that. Joe, go ahead.
I don't know if you saw this. We got the two pieces. One is on the amount of money the federal government has collected with taxes, and this second one, Feds forcing, and I don't know, I got a computer freeze here, Feds forcing public schools to adopt non-discrimination for transgender teachers and students. The U.S. Department of Education is demanding the Fairfax County Public School in Virginia suburbs, just outside Washington, D.C., revise their non-discrimination policies to include gender identity or risk losing federal funds they receive for their schools. The non-discrimination would apply to transgender students and teachers. Fairfax County School Board is scheduled to vote on a new policy, a revision of its existing non-discrimination policy, Rule 1450, on Thursday, May 7th. The gender identity or transgender policy is explained in a May 6, 2015 memo issued by a Stephen Lockard, the Deputy Superintendent of Fairfax County Public Schools. It states the Office of Civil Rights of the U.S. Department of Education is requiring school divisions to, 1, revise their non-discrimination policies to include gender identity, and 2, hire a consultant to advise on revisions to regulations and, more generally, how school divisions could handle individual cases of transgender students. If the school board amends Policy 450, we will be able to tell them they have already done two things that OCR is requiring. If they refuse to amend this policy, OCR has the right to recommend the termination of federal fundings to these public schools.
They're being held hostage.
This, according to the superintendent. Now I want to just read a quote from a pastor. This is a rather long article. A lady named Schultz here. I'm going to try and find her first name. I believe that's who this pastor is, but there's a quote here. It's very good.
Schultz being the first name, did you say?
I'm looking here. Okay. There's a preacher. Yes. Okay. In a May 7th letter to parishioners of the McLean Bible Church, one of the largest evangelical churches in the county with more than 13,000 adult worshipers each week, Pastor Lon Solomon said that the school district has made no effort to engage parents or advise the public on what this means for students or employee safety or for parental rights, adding the policy affects all students from preschool to 12th grade and all school employees. Should this pass, it is my understanding that everything from locker rooms to bathrooms will potentially be open for children and adults who feel that their inner sexuality does not match their outer God-given physical sexuality. This both is shocking and morally and spiritually repugnant, he said. It demands a response from everyone in our church family living in Fairfax who loves Christ and the truth of his word.
Well,
so there you go.
I'll just say this, that's it's ridiculous at its face, and there is what we have to do as well. I mean, we have to, number one, put up that wall, say, no, this is not going to happen, not in our school district. And, Billy Bear, folks, you remember Billy Bear.
Yeah, he was arrested.
3-minute rule. But he didn't, that's not why he was arrested. That's the reason given for his arrest, but, he's showing the pornography based in a peripheral, at the periphery of what we're talking about here within the school district. And, of course, the school district did not want to put up with that. And, of course, he was arrested. But this is what it's coming down to. And I think we all need to stand up at school board meetings. I think we all need to but even more importantly, and more to the point, we need to pull our children out. If you have the capability, and I think we have to come together and help one another somehow. I know that moms and dads both have to work, and this is by design. I mean, just in order to pay the bills, and we can cut back. I mean, goodness knows, our family has cut back to accommodate. I mean, we've cut down on our lifestyle because what's more important? The
Your
integrity
lifestyle?
of the,
what did you ever do?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, cutting. How far back can you cut back?
You don't even go. You get offered to go out to dinner. No, I'll just stay home.
Oh no, and I think
you
going
live
out
in
to
the
dinner.
office. I mean, what do you cut back on?
Well, going out
you
to dinner.
need to cut back on time in the office.
Yeah, but see, the thing is though, we've been set up to fail in terms of the middle class, and this is the destruction of the middle class. But I think we have to pull our children out of the government schools. I think calling them public schools, I think, is a disservice to. I think that we need to call them government schools, not public schools, because it's government indoctrination that's being taught, and this is the kind of drivel, the insane drivel that's being forced down the throats of our children, our innocent children, our most precious commodity. This is just unconscionable. So we have to make a stand, and we have to do this somehow. And I know it's going to be a hardship on many, but I think we have to. We must fight back. Before we go further, if you want to finish that, or
no,
because Mary C. wrote this, and I mentioned this before we went to the break, and I want to get to this because she brings up an extremely important point. Yesterday we were talking about the Midwest and about the bird flu going through the turkeys and chickens. And
there's 20. Last time I read an article, poultry producers struggle to dispose of 20 million chickens. Right. Stinking, fly-swarmed piles of dead carcasses.
Well, Mary C., thank you so much for your very, very well thought out email this evening. And the subject line is bird flu in Minnesota. Follow the birds. And I could tell that she put a lot of time into this. And thank you for this. But she says, I'm writing to you today about something that happened here in the Midwest, specifically in Minnesota, concerning the bird flu epidemic occurring with chickens and turkeys. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just listen with an open mind on this.
And there's been a state of emergency issued in Iowa today over the bird flu.
Okay. Well, there's something going on here. And I'd like everyone to open their minds up and listen to what Mary C. has got to say, because she writes, I'm really questioning this. I've been experiencing some super discernment about this that's off the charts, that red flags are flying up everywhere, and I've been talking about it with the Lord, and I keep getting the phrase pressing in on me, and that I need to write to you about. Follow the birds. It will blow it will blow this wide open. Okay, and she writes that she feels strongly that she's through prayer that she's hearing from the Lord on this. Okay, so now here's where it gets interesting. And she writes, in an effort to be concise, I'll note some information here, along with observations and questions I've been pondering. And she writes, you guys are investigators. Am I on the right track? And Mary C., I think you are, because we have a phrase in investigations, you follow the money. And, of course, that speaks to motive, primarily motive, when we say follow the money. But it also speaks to, there's a number of different things, but follow the birds in this case. Here are some points that she brings up. She writes, prefaces this by saying, this whole thing stinks to high heaven. There's no other way to say it. I just know that I know that I know. Now, she writes, in the past few weeks, 3 million birds have been euthanized. Or have they? Who has seen this? What are the procedures? Are they taken off site, meaning are they taken away from the poultry farms? Now, if they're cremated, where's the evidence of this? If they're taken off the farms, where are they going? Do they truly have this avian influenza? These are all legitimate questions, folks. I mean, when we've gotten investigations, of course, you have to start. Where do you start? Right at the beginning. And even though, and this is important to both Joe and I, and it has been and remains kind of a mainstay in our investigations, you might receive, we'll say you receive an assignment, and somebody hands you a folder, and inside that folder is a page of facts. A lot of investigators will take that folder and that page of facts and work from that page of facts forward. What we like to do is take that same folder, look at the page of facts, and re-verify the facts, because many times those facts cannot be and were never substantiated. We're taken as truth without any questioning. So, Mary C., I believe you're on the right track. I think we have to ask the most basic of questions. Where are the birds? Where were they taken? Did they really have avian influenza? And if so, how is it proven? More recent news reports have used the word depopulation instead of euthanize, depopulating the bird community, the avian community, as opposed to euthanizing the birds. Interesting choice of words, especially through the lens of the globalists, and we know their agendas and we know their tactics. And as we mentioned yesterday, this is a very big blow to our economy. And she writes, this is a substantial blow to our economy here in Minnesota. But she writes, I've not seen one single interview with any chicken or turkey farmer. Now, Joe, wouldn't you think, given the nature of this issue, that you would have localized news reports of how this would affect the various farmers? Yes. I mean, my goodness, I know in our hometown, if something affects even 100 people, or it could be a dozen people, I mean, it
right.
makes the news.
And this latest article is saying several states are struggling with on-site disposal.
All right. So,
and here, for example, they say Sunrise Farm, and this is out of Iowa too.
Okay.
Sunrise Farm out of Osceola County has composed about 2 million of about 3.4 million hens infected. Rembrandt Enterprises, the nation's largest outbreak with nearly 5.7 million laying hens, is also composting the state. They say that the birds are infected with H5N2, very minimal human strain. They say that has affected many birds from turkeys to chickens across numerous states. But yes, where are the farm workers? Where are the pictures of these carcasses?
Well,
and one person in the chat room says that they believe that this is a preamble to food shortages, that
there you go.
They're rolling out an excuse as to why there will be food shortages. And yesterday we talked about, in the article, they said, turkey is going to be scarce this year for Thanksgiving.
Well, and that's what Mary mentions here. And Mary, I think you've got a good career as an investigator, because you've got certainly a nose for the questions to ask. And as you just mentioned, could this be about diverting the food supply, or eliminating the food supply and options for the middle class, or us regular folks, as we like to say? The elite have, we know this, they've got an underground agriculture. Does this include animals? And she writes that I would suspect that there's an entire ecosystem, the underground type of operations. So I think it does. And she also writes millions of frozen birds can provide food for a while, and they can even provide millions of more eggs. So look at the cumulative trickle-down effect that this would have, and this is having. And then she closes out by this, and I think this is equally critical. Aside from the direct impact on the food supply and the economy, there's another factor I've noticed having to do with control. And as we like to say, it's all about control and centralization. She writes, the Minnesota governor has now called a state of emergency over this bird flu, and the National Guard has been called up.
That's interesting.
Okay. Minnesota is now at the ready, in quotation marks, for any type of situation that might arise. And how many other states, she asked, have either the National Guard or a military presence for one thing or another right now? You know, how many states have the National Guard at the ready for whatever right now? I don't know the answer to that, but I do suspect that we have to look at that, especially in with the backdrop of the coming Jade Helm exercises. So Mary C., thank you for all this. And then she, well, you know, the very, very, very well thought out list of questions. And I think it would do all of us very well to verify and to ask the very same questions. Now, it is there to me, there are no stupid. When you're conducting an investigation, if somebody says to me, or I used to really like it when I would talk with with somebody I suspected of doing something not so well, of being guilty of whatever, because they would always deflect the question. They would never answer a question directly. There was always deflection in their answer, or some level of deflection, unless they were just flat out pathological, which, you know, you would get. That was always funny too, or not funny, but always interesting as well. But it's because you might have some people say, "Well, that's just a ridiculous question." I mean, how can you ask that? How can you ask questions like that? Then that kind of perks my senses up, and I think, okay, all right. Well, if you're not going to answer the question, then we have to ask deeper questions and ask the same question more often. But thank you, Mary C. One more thing, and then I'm going to two more things here real quick. Val, thank you. Val writes this. This is real time, just came in. She writes, every time some sort of flu, in quotation marks, comes up and they have to slaughter animals, she says, I always question it. It drives up costs, and many million. You know, how many millions are being killed and were killed? Who is going to question it if they're doing it for their own good because they had the flu? I'm not buying it. I don't believe it has everything to do with. I'm sorry. I believe it has everything to do with depleting our food supply. I agree with Mary, she writes. So, Mary, you're onto something, and Val, thank you so much. The other one here, this is kind of out of left field, Joe, and then I'm going to turn it back to you. However, I've noticed this too, and I can't explain this. Maybe you can. Michelle writes this, and it's interesting because as Michelle, so I read this earlier, on my desk here at the studio, I've got a magazine, and on the back cover is an advertisement for Blood Moons by Mark Biltz, who we've had on our program. But she writes this: I've been noticing in a lot of magazines lately that there have been images of models with oranges. Joe, have you noticed this?
I haven't picked up a magazine aside from maybe Prophecy in the News, or I think that's Zion Fire, what people send us.
All right. Well, I've noticed this only because I've spent more time in like the doctor's office, for example. She writes one. Okay. She writes one. The man was cutting an orange with a knife. Another one was juggling oranges and so on. Things like that stand out to me, and I think it's a God-given gift. And folks, do not. And I agree, Michelle. I agree that people have the gift of discernment, and things stick out to them. So I thought, what's up with the oranges? What's up with the oranges? They're just oranges, right? Sorry, Michelle, the wording here is a little off. But ultimately, she writes where she's noticed the appearance of oranges of late, not just in magazines, but also on television as well. So she studied it a bit. The blood orange represents, in her view, the blood of Jesus. The other is symbolic for impending death. These are very well-known magazines as well. Just wanted to share this. And, it's interesting because, I've noticed the oranges myself. There's something, and we know that there's this coding, this communication, this covert or subtle communication by the elite to others. The messages are relayed, especially in the entertainment industry. That would have, the Madison Avenue kind of, Madison Avenue, entertainment industry. We'll just leave it at that. Look at oranges and see what. We're just tossing this out to you folks. See if you notice this increase in the use of oranges as props in magazines, and could this be some sort of message? I don't know, but Michelle, thank you very much for that. Want to pass that along. Go ahead, Joe.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back with more news and your phone calls if you want to weigh in. The number is 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. Tomorrow we have Nathan Leal with us, and we won't be taking calls. And then through next week, we're starting to fill up the schedule, and tomorrow we'll have a better idea of who's coming on when, but we know that Stan will be on next Tuesday. Greg Jackson will be on Wednesday, for sure. But give us a call tonight, 661-244-9839. Press 1 once you get on there, or if you're already on hold and you want to talk to us, and we'll take your calls.
Our preference is going to be for first-time callers, so if you can, first-time caller, let's do it up good.
Now let's try this again with the bumper music and get this lined up properly.
I like to... Actually, folks, bumper music does serve a purpose, except when you talk like this.
This Thursday edition of the Hagmann Hagmann Report, we're going to be taking phone calls and hitting some news this hour. 661-244-9839 is the number. We'd like to hear from first-time callers first. So first-time callers, 661-244-9839. Once you're on hold, press 1, and that'll let us know you're in the queue. One headline I want to hit here, and then we will move to some calls. Chinese Providence moves to ban Christian crosses on rooftops. Authorities in China's eastern province of Zhejiang have drawn up proposals to ban putting up crosses atop Protestant and Catholic churches, drawing worries from the Christian community. Since the beginning of 2014, zealous communist officials have forcibly taken down crosses from more than 400 churches, in some cases causing violent clashes with members of their congregations. They have said that the crosses breach building regulations, but critics say the rapid rise in Christians in China has rattled the ruling communist parties. The authorities have attached great importance to this religious symbol. This means no more prominent manifestation of Christianity in the public sphere. Mr. Legu, a pastor from one of the churches inside that province, told the AP. He referred to the latest crackdown as a restriction on the public space for Christianity. Its primary target is symbols rather than the belief itself, and it's milder than previous crackdowns. The authorities have backed down from a complete ban, and a draft of the new rules released by the government this week shows that crosses must be no longer 10% of the facade's height, must fit in with their architectural surroundings, and be completely fixed onto a building or walls rather than poking up from atop the roof.
Well, listen to this. In China, in this economically powerful communist country of China, both Protestant and Catholics who refuse to join state-sanctioned religious organizations they face very severe restrictions, including efforts to undermine and harass their leaders. If they belong to a church group, their leaders are harassed, they're publicly ridiculed and undermined. They're arrested. They're subjected to detention in China. Okay, most favored nation status, China, and of course their property is destroyed after it's taken from them. Now, the head of the China's State Administration for Religious Affairs has called on government officials to renew efforts to, quote, guide, end quote, unregistered Protestants and Catholics to join the state-sanctioned churches. You want to see what's going to happen in this country? There you've got it, okay? It's going to have to be state-sanctioned. The communist official has also urged efforts to just bust up large Protestant house churches into smaller groups. According to reports by Protestant house church leaders, there were 1,470 people that were detained in 2013. 10 were given sentences of more than 1 year. And if you look at the numbers, the Christian persecution in China is dramatically rising. The various different there are provinces all throughout China. 2 Christian bookstore owners in the Shaanxi province, 2 Christian bookstore owners were arrested and sentenced to 5. Let me see here, to 5. Okay, there are two owners. One was arrested and convicted, or one was arrested and sentenced to 5 years. The other to 2 years imprisonment for illegal business operations. And what that means is they were operating outside of the state sanction of the Chinese religious affairs. So there you got it. The rise of the Christian persecution is worldwide, but in China it is really flying through the roof. And there was a study done here recently. The top, let me just grab it real quick here and then we'll go to calls. Let me just grab it real quick here. They listed the worst countries for Christian persecution. Of course, you have Saudi Arabia, but listen to this. By the numbers, Open Doors USA, by the numbers, the worst, or the top 50 Christian countries of persecution, Christian persecution. I'm just going to go through the top 10. Think about where the United States military and intelligence has operated in these top 10. Number 1, North Korea. Number 2, Somalia. Number 3, Iraq. Number 4, Syria. 5, Afghanistan. 6, Sudan. 7, Iran. 8, Pakistan. 9, the Nigeria. And number 10, the Maldives. Saudi Arabia came in at 11.
All right.
So think about that in relative to our military and intelligence involvement in those countries.
I am refreshing my studio as it went completely dark on me. There we go.
There. That's nice.
Love when that happens. Let's take some calls.
All right.
Let's go to area code 440 first. 440, we're coming to you. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on this Thursday. What's on your mind tonight?
Oh, I think that's me.
That's you.
Hi, Joe.
Good evening.
All right, just caught me in the middle of something I've been... what I want to talk about is that, when they take us down, they're going to do it with communication, of course. They're going to shut down the Internet. I just wonder if you guys ever thought about getting the ham radio or short waves, just in case something like that.
That's what we're doing. Yes, that's part of the reason we're making the move that we're making.
Oh, great. So you'll let us know and all that good stuff when it's all put together then, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And there was one other thing. It was about a week and a half ago that Steve Quayle and David Langford was on. And I listened to that program. And at the end of the program, what I got from it was completely, if it's not Jesus, it's Satan. I don't know if anybody else felt that way after that program. It was just, it was inspirational.
Oh, amen. Yeah, interesting choice of words you use there. It's black and white now. Although there are people trying to force that gray area in there, it is all black and white. It is good versus evil. It is God versus Satan, or Satan versus God. Yes.
Right. And then it was just one more thing. I just really admire the way you guys handle all your callers. You have such patience, and you could tell that, the only, because the arrogance of so many other talk shows out there, they cut people off, in their thoughts and stuff like that, and don't let them, complete the complete thoughts. But I just want to say your Christianity just comes through, and I just want to thank you guys for it, and God bless, and go down to the next caller.
All right. Well, thank you so much. God bless you, and have a great night. And thanks for calling. Appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, Joe, that program with Steve Quayle and Pastor Langford really was one of the more anointed ones, I believe.
And a lot of people have been listening to it. It's still up there on the iTunes individual episode chart. So I know lots of people are still downloading that show, and I hope they do. If you didn't hear it, definitely go back and listen to it, as it is worth the listen. What day was that? Was that Friday?
That was Friday.
Friday. Yeah, last Friday. All right, we're going to go next to 775 area code. 775, we're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report. Hello.
Hi. Well, you guys are awesome. God bless you. And what that other young man was just talking about, that last Friday's program with Pastor Langford and Steve Quayle, was absolutely wonderful.
Well, thank
you. You guys are, we hadn't heard about you, my husband or I, until 2 years ago from a Deanna who's a bus driver in Denton, Montana, and we've been listening to you ever since. Anyway, I appreciate all of your shows, and if you guys are going on ham radio later on when things get really bad, it'll be nice to know all the details. In the meantime, I had a dream the other night that this jade helm is kind of like a distraction. And I'm kind of wondering, how the Illuminati and all the bad people are, Satan is always trying to deceive us and keep us distracted from his main agenda. What if his main agenda is something other than the jade helm, which is just keeping everybody, it seems, really distracted right now?
It's interesting you say that. There's a lot of focus by the alternative media to Jade Helm, and I think, I look at Jade Helm as being the overt, and I often say this, the flashbang, the overt flashbang of the globalists, of the people that are running things here. But you're right. What else? What is that serving as cover for? What's going on here? And there are parts to Jade Helm that the overt section is covering, but then there are other things happening aside from Jade Helm that the attention is being taken off because of it. So you're right. You're right. I think we have to look at the entire scope of things.
Yep. Okay. And the other thing is, if this is supposedly ending in September, when one of the feast days are and one of the blood red moons are, and I'm just kind of wondering if, with all the other stuff that Steve Quayle talks about, we just got the books today, his second volume on Genesis 6 giants and little creatures. And I'm just kind of wondering where that's going to come into play if Jade Helm actually does go live, and there aren't going to be very many people here to, I don't know, be able to see the giants.
Boy. Yeah.
I
mean,
just kind of where it all comes into play,
I got to tell you, I had mentioned earlier in the program, I don't like to see spiders, but boy, maybe my reaction to spiders would probably be take a back seat to seeing a giant, if you will. But it's interesting because the super soldier program and the militarization of the police department, goes hand in hand. And Joe was doing a lot of research and has been doing a lot of research on this. I do believe that that and the opening, and people might balk at this and might say this is just crazy talk, but the opening of the portals, even though the scientists are talking about this, people are refusing to really discuss this seriously. The portal openings and what's coming through, these ogre-like. So all of this is coming together, and I mean, so it's relevant to today. Isn't it amazing how Genesis 6, or the entire book of Genesis, is having, finding relevance in current events? It just astounds me of the about the holy nature of the Bible.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I think it all ties together, and I have to agree with the young man who was talking before me about, it really does all boil down to, Satan and God and Satan, and that's the way it has been from the beginning, and people have just gotten so distracted. There's so many people that just take everything just so non-consequentially that it really saddens my heart. I do a lot of praying for a lot of other people just because they're so lost. Well,
I'm sure your prayers are not. I mean, I'm sure they're being effective because obviously somebody had to do a lot of praying for me because I certainly didn't find. I was one of those people who just disregarded all of this as nonsense, and then suddenly. I shouldn't say suddenly, over a period of time, and then suddenly it came and it hit me. So I do believe that people were praying for my, being awakened, and so we all need to pray for those who aren't fully awake yet.
Yes, we do, and I really appreciate that show with Pastor Langford and Steve last Friday, just because I think I still have my dirt, and
I do too.
I look at it every day to remind me,
Isn't
and I'm
that
really
humbling?
just you guys, because you have actually helped me bring a lot of things together. It's funny how God kind of put us here. We're in Tonopah, and so we are in the mountains in between Area 51 and the Tonopah testing range.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And
so did you sit on your front porch or back porch and kind of just look around and wait for the next thing to happen, whatever it might be, or?
Actually, we don't see much here. I mean, we have heard helicopters, and one of our neighbors said that if we're awoken one morning by a roar, it's just the Black Hawk helicopters coming up out of the tunnels. Anyway.
Marvelous. Wow. Just another day at the ranch, right? Another day at the house.
It is. It really is.
Okay. Oh, you have to laugh sometimes. You have to take it. And isn't it funny that, or isn't it? It's great to me that we know, despite all the machinations of the evil ones and the people with the agendas, it's all going to be in the end for naught, because we do know how this ends. And
that's true. That's true. It sure seems like they're working an unending at an unending goal.
Yes.
Theirs will end in torment, but ours won't. And
Amen.
I'm really grateful for you guys bringing us both closer to putting things into a full circle instead of just a bunch of irons in the fire. So.
Well, thank you, and that's one of the highest compliments we can receive, and thank you so much for your graciousness and for being so kind. We really appreciate it.
All righty. God bless you guys.
All right.
God bless you,
Bye-bye.
too, and have a good night.
All right, you too, Joe.
Bye. All right. Next caller, 786. 786, we're coming to you. You're live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
Hey, Doug. Hey, Joe. How you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic. What's up?
Well, thank God for you guys. I thank God every day that you guys are still on the air, and pray for you guys always.
Thanks. We appreciate that. And we thank God we're still on the air as well. And we know there's going to be a time when we're going to have to fight this to be on the air, and things are going to get bad. But we're making those preparations, and we thank God, and we thank each and every one of you for your prayers, your support, and everything you've done and are doing for us, because we do have plans to keep sounding the clarion call, regardless of the venue. And trust us on that. No one's going to shut us up until there's no breath left.
Amen. That's right. I mean, God sent his prophets, and all they had was just their voice, and that was more than enough. And so even if we don't have all this technology, God's word will still be proclaimed throughout the whole earth. I want to, first of all, I've got so much I want to talk to you guys about. It's been building up since late March, and I haven't been able to get through. I've talked with you guys a couple times before, but I haven't been able to get through, and other people who probably haven't been able to get on before have been getting through, and that's just fine with me. I think that's great that just, get a whole lot of different voices and opinions in. But first of all, just want to, this past March, a young member of my family was very sick for 2 weeks, and I just want to proclaim out there to everybody that God is Jehovah Rapha, the Lord our healer, and healed our little one, and now he's doing great. And I just want everybody that listens to you and to hear a praise to God of how he heals us, and he's there for us. And he was there for my little one. And I thank God every day that he's so gracious to us when we don't deserve anything from him. God gets it all and deserves all. But by his grace, he shares his healing and his wisdom with us. And we all should just be so grateful every day for our Lord God and his son Jesus Christ. And I just want to thank him publicly in the biggest venue I could, to just let everybody know that those who are out there who are sick, who are and that could be suffering spiritually. I didn't get to hear much in the last hour because I was on the road, and I just got back in listening. And but I was hoping to get through last night because there was this lady there at the end that was really hurting, and I really want to just let her know that that he is our healer, and for her not to be. I hope she's listening tonight, because God bless her. She was the last caller last night, and she was
Jennifer,
just,
yes.
You could just tell she was hurting. But I just wanted her to know that, God's word says that all who live godly in Christ Jesus will suffer persecution. And so it's part of it, but he's working on each and every one of us, and we all have to go through certain things for him to shape us into the person that he wants us to be. So, but he will heal her as he sees fit, and will definitely be there for her. And I just want to give her that hope, which she probably already knows because she sounded like she really, tries to read God's Word, and she's trying to keep up with things. So God bless her. She touched my heart last night hearing her about what she's gone through. So, and that's for everybody else out there. He is Jehovah Rapha, and that's the Lord our healer, and He will be there for us. Like I said, I've got a million things, but I don't want to. I know other people are going to want to call, but what I did want to talk to you guys about was that here in this country, everybody's feeling it now. And like I said, I didn't hear the last hour or so of the call. It'd be great if Blog Talk Radio had an app that would work with the phones correctly. I try to listen through the website, but it always crashes when you're mobile. But
just I don't want to divert your question, but have you tried our app that we had designed for the program, where you can use it on your mobile phone?
I've tried it initially, and it was giving me some trouble. I haven't tried it lately, though, but I will go back to it. What I was clicking on, maybe I was clicking the wrong thing through my phone. It was taking me to the Blog Talk link, but there's now but y'all's app now has a player built in.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a
I'm not sure.
Well, it's an I shouldn't say a player itself. It's an interface that takes and I have to talk with the makers, but the creators of the app. But it's supposed to be an interface that really kind of acts as a very friendly interface between BTR and your phone, your device. And by the way, you don't have to share whatever default settings are on your phone, because I know this has come up in the past, saying, well, it's asking for your location if you want to. No. Very simply, it identifies the default settings of your telephone, and all you have to do is you can choose not to share your location. You can choose, it's just like any other app, basically. So, but give it a try, and if give it a try, and if it doesn't work, you can.
Okay, I will go back to it. When y'all first came out with it, I use it. I'll go to it and look at news, links and things like that, and I'll play previous shows through it. But I haven't tried. The last time I tried to do it, it seemed like it went to BTR, and it's still giving me an issue. But it could be my connection. So
right.
I'll definitely try it again. Like I said, there's so much I was wanting to talk to you guys about. We all know this seems to be the year, and God's really placed it on my heart. He's really shown me in Book of Revelations that when you're going through the chapter 6 through chapter 9, I don't know if a lot of people really realized how many times it talks about the sun being darkened or smoke rising out of the bottomless pit when Apollyon and his demonic horde / alien, whatever it tries to manifest, comes out of the pit. There's a lot of talk about darkening the skies and darkening the sun and the moon and losing a third of the sun. And God really pressed it on me this week, and I praise God that I was able to get through to you guys, that I know people are buying food and buying those supplies, but just to let everybody know, and it's good to have the seeds, but there's going to be a lot of darkness. The day of the Lord, in fact, in Joel it says, the day of the Lord is full of darkness. And so if people are expecting to be able to plant a lot and grow crops, during the tribulation period before Jesus returns, we might not be able to do as much as we think. I mean, the Lord will provide, however He sees fit, but that just really, there's going to be a lot of darkness over the earth from multiple, it says there's a great earthquake and the sun turns as dark as, sackcloth. We've got I think the moons, the blood moons are definitely what I believe, not Jonathan Kahn, but the other guy that talks about the blood moons, and that's been big, and I think those are definitely signs. But I think also as things progress, we're going to see a lot more darkness, and we're going to lose a third of the day. And the chemtrails that they're putting up, I don't know where you guys are at, but where I'm at, we have vanilla skies anymore. We don't have blue skies. Every now and then they'll skip a day and we'll have a blue sky, and it's great to see. It's beautiful, but we have vanilla skies every day now from the chemtrails. And I don't know if Steve, I didn't get to listen to all of the Monday show, which what I did hear so far was fantastic, guys, and I'm glad that you guys, they keep coming on with Tom Horn and all them telling us about what's going on. But they're already blotting out the skies. In fact, I saw a news article where they start talking about that a third of the sun's rays are not getting through because of the chemtrails. And I don't know if anybody's ever looked at this perspective on this or looked at it in this angle, that before the flood, you know, apparently from what I hear from other biblical scholars, there's kind of a shroud around the earth where before the rain came, because it didn't rain until the flood. You know, the waters came up from the ground to water the plants and everything. And there's a shroud apparently around the earth that may have been blocking some sunlight. And have you guys talked to anybody about that this chemtrail operation may be to make, basically terraforming, to make the earth more conducive for these entities, for these Nephilim, to come back on the earth and be able to be out in the daylight? Because, you know, they are in bottomless pits right now, and they are in darkness and chains of darkness. And so have you guys talked to Steve or anything behind the scenes about, is this chemtrail program, besides putting toxins into the air and water, is there talk about, are they trying to change this planet to make it conducive for these characters to show back up, do you guys think?
Just from my perspective in talking with Steve about the chemtrail activity, and to address your question, not specific to, for example, we'll go with the demons and the Rephaim and that type of thing. Not specific to that. However, it would appear that the chemtrail activity serves multiple purposes, for which anything. I mean, there's the primary list of primary purposes for chemtrailing, and some could even be considered well-intended. I'll go that far. Some could be considered well-intended. Okay, but the other aspects of it serve multiple purposes. Although I don't think Steve, I can tell you this: Steve never directly mentioned anything about the other creature activity based on chemtrails. So I can ask him, though. I can certainly ask him to. In fact, I just wrote that down here. I'll be talking with him, and I'll ask him about it.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, I mean, where I live, it's constant now. I mean, it is hazy all the time. And what's kind of funny is that even though I don't really care too much for the TBN network channel, they did back in the day. They came out with a movie about the end times. I think it's called Megiddo or something. And they showed at the end everything was kind of like a murky. The sky was murky and everything. And it's almost like being in that movie and seeing the surroundings now. In the sky is just, they're putting, I think it's called Project Indigo Sky or something like that, the $300 billion program to for the geoengineering, and that's a lot of money. Has anybody, we're going to have this collapse, but, I think that the reason that Washington and the UN and Europe, they're spending money like there's no tomorrow, because they know that all of this, they're spending on what they want to do and how they want to do it, and of course following Satan's plan and the elite's plan. That's why they're not worried about the debt limit anymore or anything, because they already know, and they're acting like there's no tomorrow. And I mean, these politicians on both sides, we should give them no breaks. They're doing all this intentionally. I don't care if they had a bad upbringing or whatever. I think most of them, were probably initiated long ago in Illuminati and Luciferic initiations when they were, born, and I know that Doc Marquis talked about this, about that stuff, and also, I can't think of right offhand, but the gentleman wrote about the Black Awakening. That, I mean, they get these people from when they're kids and subject them to all that stuff and brainwashing, and bless her heart, the lady last night was trying to understand Obama and saying, well, maybe if he had a different mother or better parents. Well, I guess that she's right. But I mean, these guys are programmed from the beginning to do what they're doing. They're put in there, and they're willing participants in this, in the downfall of, or the attempted downfall of Adam, which Satan's been doing from the beginning. And with this Babylonian system, I saw on Drudge today, and you guys probably saw it too. We got everybody. Whoever went to Drudge, we were smacked right in the face with the cover of The Economist, showing us the Matrix with the artificial intelligence, with a picture with a USB port in the back of somebody's head. Satan's created a matrix from the beginning around us. This whole Babylonian system, which is the government, the false religious system that spans across what some things call the label Christianity, and then all the other occult and fake religions of Muslims and all that, and then the economic system and the money, just like Dr. Lake said, the Nakash, and money is you can see it in people. And some people that, go to church and they try to do the right thing, and even though none of us are good, in God's eye, none of us are good. It's only Jesus, and for His covering, we are presented as good. But nobody's good. But people that try to live a decent life, but they're still hung up. Everybody's hung up this money system, and I think the whole thing about the beast system, the mark of the beast, is we're going to have to choose. I mean, are you going to trust money, which is replaced, because Jesus said you can't have two masters, and we're all going to have to start getting used to not trusting in our money. And I'm guilty. I can't sit there and judge anybody else. I've relied on money, but I mean, we're getting to a point where we're going to have to rely on God's medicine that He provided. His healing, His supernatural healing, and then the natural herbs and stuff, and the eating well, like the products that you guys sell. I mean, that your sponsors sell, and eating right, because we're not going to be able to use cash, and we're all going to have to get used to not owning a home, because we're going to be homeless, because we're going to have a mark of the beast to pay the property tax, because in this country, some other little third world countries, you just pay a sales tax once on your property and you don't have to pay every year. But this government in this country loves to have the chains on its people. It makes sure that you have to pay a property tax every year. And if you don't pay it, you lose that property. And there's no way that that person can pay the tax under the mark of the beast system, because you won't be able to pay it unless you've got a mark. And everybody out there, the Lord's been really pressing that everybody's going to have to learn to become, quote unquote, an outlaw of this government. We're going to be outside the law here pretty soon. They are really pushing, and we're going to be outside of the law. And everybody needs to start. You guys have been preparing people and telling them every night. So I'm probably just repeating, but I just want to emphasize that it's really the rubber's meeting the road now, and we're going to have to think of living our lives a whole lot differently than what we're used to.
Oh, that's the title of our program tonight. It's later than you think. I want to thank you very much for your information. My goodness, well versed. Lot of ground covered in that call. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, guys. God bless you.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right, fantastic call. Let's move on to a few others. We have area code 513. 513, we're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Interesting points the previous listener made, some thought-provoking thoughts there. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, I haven't listened to your show for the last couple of nights, been out in the garden, and wanted to know if anyone has said anything about this jade helmet. Has there been any insiders coming forth to let us know what's going on with this?
Listen, if you have the opportunity, please listen tomorrow. To answer your question, insider, yes. Tomorrow, Nathan Leal is going to be talking about a specific insider with inside information about Jade Helm, and it's going to be well worth it. I can't really talk about it because I don't have the entirety of the information he has. I just have the what he sent me, but it's going to be from the inside, yes.
Okay, thank you. I will listen tomorrow. I also wanted to comment, Doug, I find you rather amusing, and I laugh at myself along with you. We're the same age group, and when you can't come up with a word that you're trying to speak, you're trying to find in your mind what you want to say, I can relate to that. And then also when you get on your rant, I love it. You sound like me.
well, thank you. The first part of that I chalk up to my age, and I just have my excuses. I just have so much on my mind. I can't think of the word. I just can't pull it out. Actually, it's it's probably my senility kicking in. Just ask Joe. And the second part, the rant, I think I deserve. Well, I shouldn't say deserve. I think I've earned the right to rant at times. It's a righteous rant. How's that?
Oh, sure. Yes, I totally agree with you. You're very entertaining, at least for me anyway.
Well, my wife says the same thing. Yeah. Although in just a slightly different manner, but thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I wanted to tell you, there were a couple times that you mentioned that you were grumpy, and I think people need to realize you're in pain. And when a person's in a lot of pain, you're not in the best mood.
Well, that's true. But thanks. Thanks for giving me that break, too.
Yeah. So appreciate both of you. You have fantastic shows. Steve Quayle and Pastor Langford just blow me out of the water. Pastor Langford is my pastor now. And when anyone asks me if I'm going to church, yeah, I go to church every night. I listen to Hagmann's every night.
Pastor Langford is our pastor. I have to tell you, he's done so much. And boy, isn't he great? I mean, I've never met a person who can, wow, talk about knowing the Bible. My goodness.
Oh, yeah. He just spits it out there like he wrote it himself. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. And he's like that in person too. I've never seen a person who could. You look at him and you mentioned something that's in the Bible, and he says, "Oh, that's in Psalms 83, verse whatever." I'm thinking, how do you know this? I mean, seriously. Wow, fantastic, man. So we like.
He is. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well,
thanks.
Thank you. Let's take another call. You're so welcome, sir. Thank you. Bye now.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Next up is Montana.
Montana.
Go to Montana, area code 406. We're coming to you.
Go to Montana.
You're live.
Hey, Doug and Joe, how are you?
Very, very good. Glad to be in Montana.
Yeah.
Well,
I was just going to say, I was stirred last night when I heard the sister that was a little flustered at the end of the call there. But I really believe it's critical in this hour that we keep our eyes on the eternal perspective. You know, people, the wicked always make their boast. Haman made his boast and ended up hanging on his own gallows. The men that built the fire for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego died doing it. The men that accused Daniel were eaten by the very lions that were supposed to eat Daniel. In Psalm 37 it says, evildoers shall be cut off, but they that wait on the Lord shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, but it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth and delight themselves in the abundance of peace. The wicked plotteth against the just, gnasheth upon him with his teeth. But the Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. The wicked have drawn out the sword and bent their bows to cast down the poor and needy, and to slay such as be of upright conversation. Their sword shall enter their own heart, and their bow shall be broken. It's critical that we in this hour realize that Jesus is Alpha and Omega. He has the last word in this matter. And all of the scriptures about the end days, the target is those that are wicked. What God is the shaking and the great shaking. Although God does use this time to judge the house of God, he's going to purify those that profess his name, because as you know, there's such gross misrepresentation of Christ's name in this nation. But God is getting ready to have a people that glow in the dark and walk on water, and they're going to. He has an answer for this wicked. When wickedness has come to fruition, to its greatest fullness, righteousness is going to come to its fullness, and there's going to be a people. There's going to be a people in this hour that walk like no people ever have in this earth. And God is going to have the last word. The devil's not going to go out with a roar and the Lord with a whimper. The Lord is going to shake this world on its foundations. But the vehement testing doesn't make or break anybody. It just reveals what's there. And if we're founded on the rock Christ Jesus, it says in the scripture, wherefore we receiving a kingdom that cannot be moved, let us have grace whereby we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear, for our God is a consuming fire. And in Psalm 2, to always remember this, that when all the nations gathered themselves together in one accord against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, we will break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us, it says, he that sits in the heavens shall laugh, for the Lord will have them in derision. He will speak to them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. The target of this great shaking right now is against the wicked, and God will shake them from one end to the other. And God will have a hiding place and be a refuge for those that put their trust in him. And it's so critical in this hour that we see the victory we have in Jesus Christ. Paul says the sufferings of this present time, they're not even worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. That eternal kingdom for which we all are pressing toward. Nothing in this world. He said, when you see all these things come to pass, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. It was supposed to rejoice and be victorious in this hour, and again, he that overcometh. And it's so important that people don't get to looking at the giants to the point where they forget that the Lord's the one that can open the Red Sea, bring water out of a rock. One last word. When Nebuchadnezzar, who all the present leaders of this present world wouldn't make a pimple on Nebuchadnezzar. That was a powerful man. And it says that God humbled that man, and he grazed like a cow for 7 years. And at the end of the 7 years, he says, I, Nebuchadnezzar, at the end of time, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my understanding returned to me. And I blessed the Most High God, and I extolled and honored him that lives forever and ever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, his kingdom from generation to generation. All of the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. He doeth according to his own will in the army of heaven and among the sons of men. No man can stay his hand or say unto him, what doest thou? And the last words the man ever said, he says, and now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise, extol, and honor the King of heaven, all of whose works are truth and ways are judgment, and they that walk in pride, he is able to obey.
Amen. Very well said, very well articulated. We really appreciate that. You know what, we're up against the end of the program already. I can't believe it. But thank you very much for the call, my friend.
God bless you. Appreciate you, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you.
And Joe, one thing that came to my mind when the caller was talking is you know, we're going to have the ability to look at the Satan, the Lucifer, Satan, the weasel that he is, and say, that, mockingly, that is what contaminated, or we were afraid of, or maybe that's the wrong words to use. Those are the wrong words to use, but I think, I just think that we will be surprised at the worm-like nature of what we're up against. It's going to be glorious at the time. And the other thing that came to my mind too is, for everyone out there, we know that there are people having tough times, but if right now, if things seem rather normal to you, and if your life is rather stable, you've got some serenity, I would urge you to praise God for that serenity and that stability, and don't forget to thank Him for that, because we've got a tendency, at least I know I do, I got the tendency to knock on the door of God's throne room when things are tough, and fail to acknowledge and praise when things are good. And I think we should do that more often. That's just my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Tomorrow night we will be joined live by Nathan Leal. We're going to be talking about Jade Helm 15. Until then, stay safe, God bless, and we'll see you then.
Good night.